pace of AI deployment right now. It isn't just fast, it feels more like an architectural upheaval. We're watching organizations literally rebuild their internal nervous systems around AI.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just a new tool, it's the new foundation.
Exactly. You see these huge banks just consolidating entire layers of compliance staff, or hospitals routing every image through some complex model before a doctor even looks at it. The human roles we thought were, indispensable, they're being transformed or just shed.
Which forces this really radical question, right? When computational intelligence becomes effectively free, what is the remaining enduring value of a human being in an organization? Where do we still have leverage?
And that is precisely the mission of the source for this deep dive. It's a white paper by Levany Moten, PhD, called The Human Frontier in the Age of AI. And it offers this structured framework for mapping that exact value.
It's so much more than just another prediction. It identifies 9 new job archetypes, 8 app concepts. It's about building a design space.
A design space of plausible, actionable futures. I love that phrase. It's a tool to stop panicking and start designing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gives us concrete roles and systems to think about.
So here's how we're going to structure this. First, we'll quickly unpack the conceptual pillars, the 4 zones that define where humans remain essential. But then, and this is key, we're pivoting straight to the concrete stuff.
The appendix.
The appendix, yes. The bulk of our time will be there, looking at how these abstract ideas actually show up in medicine, in science, in manufacturing.
This is good.
Okay, so let's start at that foundation. Moten argues there are 4 sort of non-negotiable zones of human advantage, no matter how powerful AI gets. Can you walk us through the first couple?
Sure. So first is emotion and trust. In any high-stakes context, think health, your finances, legal decisions, people demand a human. And the reason is skin in the game. An AI can, maybe simulate empathy perfectly from a statistical standpoint, but we all know it can't be penalized, it can't be sued, it can't mourn a loss. And that limits its moral and, frankly, its legal legitimacy when the outcome really, really matters.
That makes perfect sense. We trust the person who has something to lose. Okay, the second zone feels tied to the physical world itself, embodiment and physical judgment.
Right, because the physical world is just messy. It's chaotic. A broken fixture on a factory floor, a wet patch in a hospital hallway. AI is still pretty bad at general purpose, dexterous manipulation in those kinds of unconstrained environments.
And more than that, we're hesitant to let it be.
We are deeply hesitant. Society is just not ready, maybe never will be, to grant machines lethal or, bodily autonomy. So handling that messy reality keeps human embodied expertise essential.
The third zone is more about abstract thought, meaning and narrative. The paper makes this great point, that meaning isn't generated by AI, it's agreed upon.
It's agreed upon by people, by communities.
Yeah.
We're the ones needed for the moral, the cultural, the political interpretation. An AI can show you a million correlations, but we're the ones who decide what that correlation means for our society, for our laws.
We build the story around the data. And the final zone seems like the most structural one of all, terminal responsibility.
This is the immovable pillar. It's the who gets sued question.
Who takes the fall?
Exactly.
Right.
Societies just will not declare the algorithm as the final accountable agent. Human somebody has to be the one to sign off on the treatment plan or the infrastructure project. And that necessity creates a durable institutional demand for roles like the terminal responsibility officer.
So if those 4 zones, trust, embodiment, meaning, and responsibility, are the bedrock, what does that do to the labor market sitting on top of it? The paper says it triggers 3 huge shifts.
The first one is immediate, and it's a big problem. The disappearance of junior roles.
The missing apprentice.
That's it. All those repetitive, lower-value tasks that people used to cut their teeth on. That's the first thing AI targets. So if the entry-level work is gone, how do you ever build the tacit institutional knowledge you need to become one of those terminal responsibility officers?
That's a huge societal risk, that missing ladder rung.
A huge risk. The second shift is the pivot from a single job to a portfolio of roles, the stable 40-year career. It's eroding fast. AI lowers the barrier to entry for running your own microbusiness, for consulting, for platform work.
So people will have these complex portfolio lives.
Exactly. And managing that nonlinear career becomes a new kind of work in itself. And the third shift, which I think is fascinating, is the new premium on legitimacy over efficiency.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when AI makes super efficient decision-making cheap and just everywhere, Trust suddenly becomes the scarce resource. So institutions, whether they're hospitals or banks, have to invest heavily in things like fairness, clear accountability chain.
Things that build trust.
Right. The public might tolerate human error, but they absolutely will not tolerate algorithmically scaled injustice.
So let's get to the response. We have these new problems, so we need new jobs and new software. Let's touch on a few of the job archetypes. How does a complexity Sherpa, for instance, manage all this new AI-generated information?
The Sherpa is so crucial because AI doesn't give you one answer. It gives you an excess of conflicting signals. The Sherpa isn't the decision maker, they're the filter.
Okay.
They pull outputs from multiple AI systems, they integrate that with the really important tacit stuff, organizational culture, political context, and they distill that whole mess down into a few actionable options for leadership. They bridge machine certainty and human ambiguity.
And for that terminal responsibility pillar, you need the terminal responsibility officers.
Yes, and their job isn't to do the research, it's to review and to hold the bag, basically. They scrutinize the AI's recommendations, a treatment plan, an infrastructure project, and they make sure due process was followed. When they sign off, they are personally taking on the legal risk.
And to solve the missing apprentice problem, we get apprenticeship architects.
They're institutional inventors. Their whole job is to design synthetic learning pathways that are rigorous enough to replace the experience from those old junior tasks. So they're building AI tutors, simulated high-stakes scenarios.
Rebuilding the ladder.
Rebuilding the ladder, exactly.
And these new roles, they're going to need new tools. The paper calls them resilience tools, like the personal transition operating system or a life OS for AI shock.
Yeah, think of it as persistent AI-powered career counseling on steroids. It looks at your skills, your automation risk, and it maps out realistic transition paths for you. It lets you model scenarios, manage your identity across all these portfolio roles.
And for the institutions, to prove their legitimacy, there's the human provenance and authenticity ledger.
This is your audit trail. Verifiable proof of human authorship and responsibility. It logs which AIs were used, what the confidence thresholds were, who overrode what and why. It creates this immutable history you need for legal defensibility and just, well, public trust.
Okay, the stage is set. Now let's do what we said we would and dive deep into the appendix. Let's start with medicine, using radiology as a prototype.
Radiology is the perfect example.
Yeah.
It's the canary in the coal mine. AI is already handling triage, detection, report drafting. The human is no longer the primary pattern recognizer. The job has shifted from diagnostician to, well, supervisor and final legal authority.
So give us a real scenario. How does a terminal responsibility radiologist add value that the AI just can't?
Okay, so imagine an AI flags a lesion as highly suspicious. Statistically, it's a match for malignancy. But the terminal responsibility radiologist reviews it. They pull in the patient's full clinical history, maybe some tacit knowledge about their lifestyle that the AI can't integrate, and they notice these really subtle enhancement patterns the model miscategorized.
And they realize it's something else.
They realize it's a benign focal nodular hyperplasia. They have to override the statistically correct answer. And that takes, well, it takes responsibility. They then have to document meticulously their entire rationale for that override. The value isn't just being right, it's being willing to bet your license on that outcome.
Wow. Okay, and what about the trust steward for clinical AI? They're watching the system, not the patient.
Precisely. They're the human circuit breaker. A trust steward might notice that, say, a pneumothorax detection model is consistently underperforming on images from older mobile units, or maybe in pediatric cases.
Because the training data was skewed.
Exactly. So the trust steward escalates the issue. They temporarily disable that model for that specific demographic until it can be retrained. They're guarding the model's safe operating limits, preventing what the paper calls brittle harm.
And the medical provenance ledger is tracking all of this. Every override, every flag.
Every single action. So the chain of accountability is transparent and totally auditable.
Let's move to the sciences, specifically neuroscience. Here, the problem isn't just prediction, it's about interpretation, right?
Completely. You have these massive data streams, and AI can process them, but the bottleneck is connecting the models it produces back to actual biological reality.
And that's where the boundary walker neuroscientist comes in. What does that person do?
They're a translator. They have to speak two languages. They can talk to the domain scientist asking, what does this neuron type actually do in a living brain?
Yeah.
And then turn around and talk to the ML engineers who are focused on what's the optimal loss function. Their job is designing experiments that serve both masters, biological insight and model training.
So they're a very rare hybrid. And the neuroscience complexity, Sherpa.
The Sherpa helps the principal investigators, the PIs, manage the interpretive chaos. Instead of the AI giving one answer, the Sherpa presents, say, three competing mechanistic hypotheses that all fit the data.
It could be A, B, or C.
Right. And the Sherpa's job is to explain the trade-offs of each one, which biological assumptions you have to make for each. This allows the PI to make an informed, human decision about where to spend their limited time and money.
And to train these new kinds of scientists, the paper points to distributed apprenticeship cooperatives.
Because no single university can afford all the infrastructure anymore. These cooperatives share training environments globally. The apprenticeship architect designs the curriculum, and students can run these incredibly high-fidelity simulated experiments using AI tutors before they ever touch expensive, real-world lab equipment.
Okay, last one. Let's go to the physical world. Manufacturing and embodiment. Automation is old news there, but it creates these new brittle failure modes.
And that's where you need the skilled embodied specialist. Their work is the stuff that's too delicate or too variable for a robot. So a robotic arm might be producing tiny defects, but the AI vision system says everything is 100% okay because this specific failure wasn't in its training set.
So what does the human specialist notice that the AI missed?
They notice the things you can't quantify easily. A slight, almost imperceptible microvibration, a weird acoustic signature from a bearing. The tacit knowledge that comes from decades of physical experience that just says something is wrong here. Their value is that fusion of bodily skill and deep intuition.
And you also have a manufacturing boundary walker. They're looking at the whole system.
Exactly. They have to mediate between the robotics, the line ops, the supply chain safety regulations. Their job is spotting systemic conflicts. For example, a scheduling algorithm might be optimizing for throughput, but in doing so, it's creating an unsafe traffic jam of forklifts at one bottleneck. The algorithm is locally efficient, but globally risky. Only a human can see that.
And the tool that supports these workers is the personal embodiment tracker.
Yeah, and this is more than just a fitness tracker. It's monitoring grip strength, microtremors, fatigue levels, things that are directly relevant to precision work and safety. It ensures the human, who is now doing the highest stakes physical work, is operating safely within their own biological limits.
So when you look across all these examples, radiology, neuroscience, manufacturing, a really clear pattern emerges.
It's a powerfully clear pattern. Human roles are shifting. They're becoming less visible in some ways, but far more consequential. We're becoming the integrators, the guardians of trust, the architects of learning, and the indispensable bearers of final responsibility.
It really confirms that core idea. We're not just what's left over. We are essential for legitimacy, for meaning, and for accountability.
And the central choice we have to make, as the paper puts it, isn't whether AI will be used. It's how we consciously design human work alongside it. We have to build these roles, these tools, these institutions like the apprenticeship cooperatives. If we just let algorithmic inertia shape our world, we risk hollowing out responsibility completely.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought. The paper predicts this aggressive rise of portfolio lives, right? Non-linear careers, people holding multiple roles at once. If that's our future, then the next big societal challenge isn't building more AI. We've basically solved that.
So what is it?
It's building the safety nets for that new world. Specifically, ensuring the emergence of robust portfolio of roles management services. Think of them as meta-employers, services that handle contract negotiation, income smoothing, skills validation, and risk mitigation for people who are navigating these constantly shifting careers. How do we ensure dignity and stability in a world without the traditional stable job? That seems to be the next frontier.